get my 6. Probably can't see it, but there's a pink flower in the middle of those trees there that shouldn't be there. It's looks like a pink althea. We call it gomamela in the Philippines. Same flower, different names. I'm not surprised to see it, and I just saw it just before I started recording this video because it's right there in the tree line where a little deeper into the forest there is the graves, a graveyard, a small cemetery with about 5 graves in it. And you know, we get balls there. I don't even take them anymore. I used to take the balls. Oh, look, a tennis ball. Or, oh, look, a really old looking ball, some kind of ball. But every time I take a ball, then the next time I would go back, there would be another ball in its place. So I finally figured out those balls are meant to be there. There are 3 girls buried there who died during the 1918 Spanish flu. They lived in our house. I don't want to go too far into that because I'm going to ruin some stories in October nights for you if I do. But here's what's going on. We're doing things a little bit differently today. I'm slowly yet surely making my way up to the campground, our family campground. And I got some snacks with me. I've got provolone cheese, uncured Genova salami, I think is how you pronounce it. A couple cans of Sprite. And I've got a book in my pocket and my reading glasses. I'm going to sit up here at the campground and read. This is what I'm reading. Crazy story. If you're familiar with this author, this is one of his earliest works from like 1984. I read one of his books called Bad Monkey about, I don't know, the spring, and I really liked it. The guy's like crime comedy. And I was blowing through this, and I only had like 3 chapters to go. And then I misplaced the book, and I couldn't find it. And then I found it again here just recently. It was in my guitar case, of all places. So I love to come up to the campground in the late afternoons, early evenings, late evenings, like before dark though in the summer when it's too hot to be out. But I think the backbone of summer has been broken here in the last few days, at least in Central Virginia. It's only in the 80s the last couple days. You can actually get outside and do stuff comfortably. I get outside and do stuff all year round, whether it's 20 degrees in winter or 95 in summer. I just love to be outside, but it's actually comfortable to be outside now. So what'll happen so often, and this is why I'm going up here and doing this a little bit differently. A lot of the film on this video, as it's recorded later, I'm not going to be talking. And it's for a reason. I'm going to explain that reason to you now as I'm making my way up there. And again, keep getting my 6. You know, this is crazy. Okay, we're at the point now where there's potentially a Bigfoot Sasquatch burial ground back here. We've had really weird things happen here. And I planted a bunch of vegetables here this spring. Somebody asked how they did, and I never answered that question. They didn't do good at all. They started to come up, but then the undergrowth buried them, drowned them from the sun. So I planted a bunch of carrots there. They just didn't come up because they didn't get any sun. But this whole tree line, so many people, you know, I haven't made a video along this tree line in maybe a year. But when I used to do it often, people would often say that they saw faces in the trees and in the tree line. Gosh, I gotta cross my fingers so I'll remember to tell you this. It's like a new phenomenon I've just noticed here today. But so sometimes when I'm up here at the campground, reading, meditating, just spending time alone in nature, in the woods, clearing my mind, you know, getting rid of any noise that might be up here, I will hear things that just are odd. They're not normal. They're out of place. And I wish I'd had my camera. I wish I'd been making a video. Now I'll often have my phone with me, especially if my beautiful bride Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, and our son is out maybe with some friends. And so sometimes I'll check my phone to see if she's texted or anything. But I won't talk because I'm not making a video. And the strange activity seems to continue. So I'm kind of thinking, is it possible for me to come up here and trick them into thinking I'm actually not recording? This is not the first time. Look, I'm alone. We're not quite there yet. We're getting there. There are no other human beings out here. And I just heard voices. And I just heard a tree knock. So what I'm going to attempt to do is trick them into thinking I'm not recording. I'm going to set up here. I'm going to read. I'm going to eat my provolone cheese and my uncured salami and drink my Sprites, read my book. But when the weird stuff starts happening, I'm going to pull out my phone, and it's going to be my goal to not talk. We all know that's hard for me. And I'm going to see if I can get some of this. Okay, strange phenomenon. Okay, voices when there's no one here. Okay, we've picked that up in videos before. Tree knocks. Yesterday it was what sounded like Native American Indian drums, almost like war drums. Today, I heard what sounded like explosions coming from the sky from this area. It didn't sound like gunshots from maybe a property over the way, or it sounded like it was coming from the sky. So we're going to be listening for that too. That, tree knocks, anything crazy. And if and when these things occur, I'm going to pull the phone out. Watch for movement right here. They're waiting on us. All right, so I know you guys like hearing my stories. You like hearing my wit and wisdom, okay? Maybe a bit of wit. I don't know how much wisdom comes to it. But the last couple of days, Dearly and I have been going into town alone because our son was, what started out as a play date ended up into a sleepover, and we had time to ourselves. So we've just been going out on dates. Today, our date was pretty much just kind of like running some errands, getting some groceries. We went out to have lunch, nice lunch. But yesterday when we were out, here's the reason I'm telling you this story. I used to be in sales, and we used to have to make 25 contacts a day. That's what was recommended. I sold investments. Well, I'd make 30 or 40 because anything I've ever done, be it sales, business, writing, athletics, military, I knew there were always going to be a lot of people that had a lot more talent than me in any of these things. But I always viewed one of my strengths to be my work ethic. And so I always just had the attitude, okay, somebody might have more natural talent than me or ability, but no one's going to outwork me. So I've always done more than what's been suggested when it's come to anything I've ever done that I wanted to be good at. So I remember when I was training in sales, one of the guys taught me that was training me. He said, never end the day on like a negative experience. Like if you're out there cold calling, you're on your 25th contact, and the person you run into is just having a bad day, or maybe they're just a bitter, negative curmudgeon who views the world as a mean, nasty place, and they're miserable. And they just go off on you and tell you how much you suck and how there's no way they would ever do business with you. Okay, even though that might be your, 25th contact for the day, or for me, maybe, if my goal was 50 that day, there were days I made 50 contacts. You got to do at least one more. Make sure to end on a pleasant experience, because you'll take that home with you. You'll dwell on it. The next day you won't want to go to work. You won't want to make the first contact because the last one was so bad. I took that as pretty good advice, and I implemented that into my business, and I've implemented it in my life. So yesterday, here's why I had to give you that background. Dearly and I are out, and we were trying to find a place to eat, but everything was packed because the students are back at UVA now. So we're coming out of this one place where we decided we weren't going to eat. I open the door for Dearly, of course. She goes through, and I see there's a woman on the outside coming in. So I stand there and hold the door for her. And well, she had her mask on. We all had our masks on. We're all social distancing. And she just glares at me with eyes filled with anger. And I'm like, what's going on here? Oh, wait, yeah, you're in Charlottesville. Now listen, I love Charlottesville, and the majority of the people are wonderful. But not everybody here kind of has the Southern culture type thing where, you know, men mostly typically are still, number one, men for one thing. And number two, gentlemen, okay? You hold the door, and not just for women, but for other guys, because it's a polite thing to do, right? I'm holding the door anyway. Somebody's coming in, be it male or female, I would still hold that door, okay? Well, this girl, she was about a 30-ish year old white female, just glaring at me, you know, like offended that I was holding the door for her. So, whatever, dude. Pick your battles. I don't let stuff like that get to me. So I start to close the door, but then I see that there's another woman coming out the restaurant behind me. 45-ish year old white woman, about my age, you know. So I held the door for her, and she comes through and she says, "Thank you." And I said, "You're welcome." And then so I let the door go, and I start walking to catch up with Dearly. We're getting back on our mountain bikes, and going to go to the next place, try to get some food if it's not overcrowded. No big long wait. So I take 4 or 5 steps, and I look back, and sure enough, that girl was going in the door. She opened the door. I guess, you know, she wasn't going to let me hold that door for her. She could open that door herself, and hey, that's great. But, you know, when that happens, you know, somebody's glaring at you and they're staring at you like you're a misogynistic pig because you have the audacity to be polite and hold the door for them. It affects you. And I really think that's the goal. I don't think the goal is for those people to let you know they don't need you to hold the door for them. I think the goal is to make you feel as if, you know, I hope you know you are being viewed in this light. That's just the reality of it. And it's happened enough times in Charlottesville to where I know to expect it. It doesn't happen often, but it happens once or twice a year. Now, if I were to go into town more than I do, it'd probably happen more frequently, but I don't go into town a lot. So, but I remembered back, get my 6 right here. I specifically remembered back for some reason about that guy who trained me in sales telling me, you know, never end, look right in here, watch. Never end the day on a negative experience. And so, you know what I did? Because I mean, I felt affected a little bit because I'm a human being. My skin's thick, you know. I saw where the woman who had thanked me for holding the door for her went. She went and she sat down with her husband and what appeared to be their 2 children. And I just walked by her table and I said, "Ma'am, I want to thank you for allowing me to hold the door for you." And she said, "Oh, you're welcome." And her and her husband, you know, looked at me like that was odd. And I looked at her husband. I said, "You know, sir, if you'd have been coming out, I would have held the door for you too." And I told her what happened. I said, there was a young lady out here that I guess was offended that I was trying to hold the door for her. And I wasn't doing it because I'm a man and she's a woman. I was doing it because I'm a human and she's a human. And it was the polite thing to do. But she wanted to let me know that, you know, and so I said, "I'm thanking you for allowing me to just simply be polite and not looking at me like I'm something I'm not because I chose to be polite." And she laughed and her husband laughed. He said, I get it. He says, "It happens to me too." I said, "All right, well, just wanted to thank you." And then I left and I got on my way. Watch for movement here, folks. You know, maybe the trick the whole time was to come up here ignoring what may or may not be back there and actually talking the whole time so that the focus has been on the phone the whole time, not on them. Maybe they can tell when I come up and all of a sudden I just immediately start trying to focus on them. You hear that howl? It's like a very distant howl. I hear footsteps. Well, if this is working, we need it to keep working. You know, the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't break it. I guess I need to keep talking, because they obviously have been trying very hard to hear what I've been saying the whole time I was coming up the hill. So, right here, just keep watching right there. It's hard to concentrate on trying to tell stories while you're potentially capturing something on video that may or may not exist. Look at that, the sun's going down. We're right at the edge where field meets forest. The veil's pretty thin right here, so it should be no surprise that we may or may not be seeing something right here. I didn't bring my blue rectangles, my red circles, my green arrows, and it was intentional, because remember, we're trying to trick them. We're trying to trick them into thinking we're not actually recording them right now. You know, usually I would flip the phone right now so I could zoom, but I can't do that, because if I do that, the gig is up. It's like they're weaving in and out of the veil from our side to theirs, back and forth. But I'm going to keep talking, and I'm going to keep walking backwards, and let's just keep watching that area. Wow. That was a tree knock right behind me. I think they're saying, that's far enough, buddy, don't come any closer. Another tree knock. Almost like just a thump low on the trunk of a tree.